Welcome back to Cold Opal, and we're back with part 3 of the Opal Bind Challenge. Now, for this parcel, I went ahead and kind of did a little bit of a pre-sort to help us out with some of the groupings here, since some of this material isn't necessarily worth going over individually. So first off, we went and sorted out the seam material that is going to be kind of like for inlays, and that size of material. There's some very nice stuff here. It's different colors. Some of it is matching. Some of them are rubs. Some of them are opal fingernails. Like, I don't know who lost their opal fingernail, but we also noticed this one is quite long, and it was not used for the size evaluation, which is a good thing. We originally thought that this rub here was the opal that was used for size evaluation, but it turns out that that was not true. We thought this was on the bottom here. It was 12 millimeters, but I measured it up and it was about 17, 18. So that kind of worked in our favor, and we're going to get into how that happened, with our analysis of the parcel as we bought it, and kind of where we ended up on some of those stones that we were hoping to turn into some cut gemstones. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that we could use in very varying ways. Some of this is just barely opalized, or at least barely showing color. It's obviously clear opal, but so yeah, there's a lot of that material. I would say around a third of the parcel is made up of this, maybe even 40% is made up of this inlay material. So, we've got uses for that, we've got plans, and that's all good stuff. There's one little rub here that I kind of wondered if it was a belemnite. But yeah, it could be. I'm not sure why they stopped working on this, but it's been polished even, so they maybe had that chip off on them in the finishing process. So yes, there's the inlay material. Now the next group we're going to take a look at is Potch. As much as you would think that a parcel that's kind of like this isn't going to have a whole lot of Potch in there, it does. And maybe they just threw this in because they're like, well, if you need some backing for some of the stones. Some of this has a little bit of color in it, but most of this stuff is just pretty much Potch. And that maybe is 10-15% of the parcel, just by estimate. Next, we're going to go through things that are just a little bit better than that stuff that we just looked at. It does have a little bit of color, but it would be difficult, or this might just kind of eventually end up in the Potch or inlay pile as we go along. Some of these stones are lovely to look at. This little one here is quite lovely, and it does have nice color on the back side of it. Maybe you could tumble that and have yourself a little pocket rock or something like that. So yeah, there's another nice one here on the end that has a little bit of opal on the end, and we might be able to see if this goes in a little bit further, but I don't think we'd get our hopes up too high. Same with this. This has got color that's pretty directional, and so we'll see where those take us. All right, next we have these tiny cutters, and I'm saying cutters, but like, you'd really have to decide what you wanted to do with these. Some of these are fairly nice. It's just, are you going to be able to maximize your efforts in getting the most out of this material? So this one's not too bad. This one here also Has nice color, and it's got a couple of issues, but I mean, you could almost just put this on a dop and just go from there. That's probably what I would end up doing with it, seeing what you get. But you know, worthy of our time in this regard. This one does have a seam running along it. It's going into the oranges, so it's kind of sandwiched between sand, which I don't know. It's got a little bit of potch up on the top, but on the back end here you can see that potch is sitting on top of more sand. So yeah, you might be getting lucky with something like this and cut like a tiny 3rd carat little stone out of it or something like that. This one is probably the nicest one of these really tiny ones. Just to give you a size reference, these are all in the same size category. And yeah, this one is about 6 millimeters across. So that's 6 millimeters, and then the other direction would probably be more like 3 or 4. So yeah, very small. There's nice flashes through here. It's nice material, and it seems to be fairly clean from the one side. The back end here is the problem area, and there might be other issues as well upon closer inspection, but still, you know, these are going to be good to practice doing the very smallest stones that you would probably ever try to cut like that. And I would say this is a very minuscule part of the parcel, less than 5%. All right, next we have the Stones of Promise. This has got a nice enough color coming through the back here that you'd want to take a look and go down off the top and see how that looks. It's on Potch, so you wouldn't have any problems with that. This one is a little, this is kind of a bigger version almost of those small cutters that we looked at. It's got sand issues though, and you're kind of taking a gander at how that sand shapes out. This one here, I kind of questioned whether this one should be in the promising pile, but it's got enough going on that you might just get this to clean up fairly nicely once you start working it. Then we have this one. This I didn't think was going to be much at first, but the color that is coming through is bright enough and nice enough, and it seems like it's uninterrupted going through the at least the back end of the stone here, that you'd want to just take off some of the sand on the top and see where you go from there. You just never know. All right, next. This one has got some promise. It's got sand on the top that you would have to work around or just take that off. It's opalized through the back, and this one is kind of looking like it could cut from 2 directions almost, because the opal starts to run down the side. So yeah, you might find out when you get inside there that, hey, something good, or hey, here's more sand. All right. This one here, it's cloudy on the top, and it's got a potchy cloud that's sitting on there. However, at the sides, you can see where the color bar is going, and it looks like it's giving you good signals that, hey, this isn't maybe too bad. So this one has some promise, and maybe 1/2 carat or smaller cutter that comes out of that. This has got a couple of bars on it, if I remember correctly. It's just gorgeous, the reds that are coming out of this stone. Yeah, there's 2 color bars that are fairly close together. You have a little bit of potch in between them though, so I'm not sure that would cut a double-sided stone out of there, and I don't know if there is even such a market for very tiny double-sided stones. But if you just isolated that bottom color bar, which looks to be the better of the two, you could be looking at an okay stone. So we like that. This is a piece of crystal, and it looks to be fairly clean. I think what we would want to try to do is just to take the sand off and see what we're left with. If we're left with something that is just crystal opal and it looks like this, like I'm good with that. That would be fun. All right, on we go. This is kind of curved, and the color and the patterning is not bad. It's going, into the oranges in certain spots. I almost wondered if they had taken a Nova tip to this one, because it looked like this one would have been rubbed out there, but I don't think they did. That wasn't on their agenda. So yeah, we can check that one out. If nothing else, it's got some grayish, darker grayish potch that we could use. All right, next in line, this one has got a lot going on in the face of the stone. Not much in the back here. It doesn't necessarily have a defined bar, but there's a little one right on top of the potch. So you might go in there and find out that you're maybe just left with a little strip here. I don't know. So this one might be difficult, but it's worthy of our investigation. Here, this little one, you might get a stone out of the back end here. Again, smaller stones. It does have nice black potch, and this section over here doesn't look as badly sandshot as the front section. So they may have, this may be an offcut of some sort, and they just got rid of that piece. All right, on we go. This is the one that we made comments on the analysis video, and we're kind of pleased with what we saw here. There's kind of like that metallic effect, thin opal, right on top of that potch. Now, what you could do with that, I don't know. Maybe you could do larger pieces of inlay. It does have a bar, and it does go in there a little bit. So we could always clean up the face and see how that looks. I don't know that you could do much to the back. So, not bad. We'll keep it in mind. Next is this one here. This is a piece of seam that has a very nice showing on the one edge. Let's see if we can get it to show. That is pretty good on the side there, and it doesn't continue necessarily. But it is on the back, and then on the side again it is there, but it's obfuscated by something. So whether that's the potch eating up into there or what, it doesn't appear to be sandy. So that, I mean, of the size and the shape, would cut a lovely stone if you could isolate it. So that one has promise. And really, at these price points, that's kind of what we're hoping for, is pieces that have a little bit of potential, a little bit of promise. And being able to practice on this size material and getting into this level of what I would call finery, where you're just dealing with very small things. This piece is promising, and it's got green, yellow at the top. Then it has another bar below that's red, and it's fairly bright. That is a fairly enticing stone. It has pinks. It has a lot going on down there. Even if you just had it out the side here, where you had that green next to the red, with a little bit of yellow in between, I think you could call that a success. It's lovely material, and we're looking forward to seeing what that one could do for us. Next, we have, this one might be the one that snuck in from the trouble pile, because as nice as it looks up top, and it does look nice, it has problems on the back, and we don't know how far in that sand goes. It looks clean from the sides, but you just never know. It does have a secondary color bar at the top, which would likely be wasted unless you could find a way to work with it or finish the stone somehow using both of those tiers, which I don't know that would be a bad idea. It would be an interesting exercise maybe just to try it out. Alright, so now we're getting into these little knobby, little thicker seam stuff. This is the one where in the video I said, okay, well yeah, like this thing he didn't really show, but it's showing color from different angles. And we kind of get that here. Now, it's dark enough that you would say, okay, well maybe there could be something pretty nice in here. And I guess we'll have to find out. But I definitely want to be the one who finds that out. So, very nice. Now we're down to the last two pieces. These are the cream of the crop of the parcel. This here is just a lovely stone that's sitting on top of there. It looks pretty clean. I'm going to just bump up the light real quick. So yeah, this has got all the colors. It just goes really dark and satisfying red all the way to the yellows, back into blues, you know, everything you got going on there. It's got Potch over here on this side, good thing, and also you might be able to sneak a peek at that red color bar that's coming from down right, sitting on top of that Potch. I can't tell on the back here if the sand eats out part of that inside of the stone. It doesn't appear to, maybe a little bit over here, but you might have some issues with that, and this could turn out to be a disappointment. But its potential is good enough that this kind of takes the number 2 in the parcel, maybe even the number 1. It's really bright when it's going. So yeah, and even if the stone is smaller than what we would have liked, it's all practice in the end, and I don't think you'd have problems moving a stone like that if you wanted to sell it. So that one has a lot of potential and promise. This one is the one that I think has the most promise and potential out of the parcel. This could be incorrect analysis. This is what we're trying to learn. This is what we're trying to get a hold on. It just looks so nice at the onset here, where it's going reds, oranges, pinks, and it continues in, and you can see on the back end that the opal is still there. We do see some things that maybe this formed like this and not like this, which, I mean, it's fine. It can be running down the side and it could still cut you a stone. I guess this one is just a matter of how that, what do you call it? Cloudiness in the potch would clean up on the surface here, and if you could get down far enough, you may be able to. And yeah, the potential of this one is rather nice. And I also kind of like looking at this one from the online photos. I thought that this was going to be from our judgments using this piece as a guide, which this is not the piece that they sized it up on. They might have sized it up on this one, which, yeah, that's 12 across. So yeah, there's 12 millimeters right there. But it's got a lot going on inside there, and there's a little bit of a color bar down there too, that goes into the greens. So yeah, even up on the top here. So I wouldn't be worried as much about the sand, although there could be good stuff underneath that sand, and it could be that green opal is facing up over there nicely, and that's where you cut your stone from, and this is just maybe it doesn't turn out. So it's exciting to see these types of colors, though, especially after the last parcel, which we knew that one didn't have these colors in it. It's just good to have an idea of, like, okay, well, how is the brightness on these stones? You know, these colors that are going into the yellows and oranges and reds, like, you know, how do we get our most out of those? How do we maximize that? So it'll be interesting to see in the end which one of these parcels turns out best. I mean, as far as recouping your value, part of the value in buying that first parcel was to have some material that we could use to practice and cut in the wheels and dial in the wheels on. This one, we wouldn't be looking to do any of that. There's just not enough material in this 100 carats. But there's enough here where you would be able to cut some small gemstones, and this one has a higher potential for recouping the value, which is all we're looking for. I mean, if we go above that, I would be surprised, but it's not impossible, especially if a couple of these turn out in our favor. So that will be the next part of the video, parts 4 and 5, to see kind of where we ended up with the value in the end. I'm happy with what we purchased. Being only able to do this online, I don't know that I would have been able to pick out a better parcel in person and gotten a much better deal on it. You never know, unless someone's just, hey, I just like the way this guy is dealing with me. I don't know. So yeah, this is not bad, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We'll do another couple parts. We'll try to get through this stuff pretty quickly, but I'm not thinking it's going to be that quick. But as far as the research and the education that we kind of went through to get to the point where we're finally buying opal, and we're finally feeling confident enough to pull the trigger without just really getting taken advantage of, I guess, is our main goal. Is we would like to at least be somewhat knowledgeable. I think we bought parcels that we can be happy with in that regard, and identified them correctly. Like this, I saw parcels going that had this size amount and this, type of looking material that went for less. But I think that the identifiers that we identified, where we were comfortable going a little bit over what those ones went for, would be like this piece here, and where's that other one? Yeah, this one here. So yeah, you could, I mean, even if you just made a set of earrings out of those, like, that's not an everyday common item when it's opal that looks like that. So you would expect to do pretty well. So it's exciting to finally have this in hand, and we're excited to get started and get working on this. And you can look forward to viewing the videos of them being cut and made into jewelry or sold as cut opals. It'll all be fun to see. Stay tuned for parts 4 or 5, and thank you for watching as always.